Now that Tower Fall, the DLC map, has been out for a month, figured it's time to share a few bits of trivia about the game map. One of them is where we got the ideas for the collectibles. It gets harder and harder to come up with new ideas for collectible objects that the player can find out there in the wilderness. So we took some inspiration from things we found exploring the general store at Tower Fall. Now in the game, the store is closed, and in the real world it's only open in the summertime, but we have gone while it's still open and explored the gift shop to see what interesting objects we might find there. So these include the wolf plush, which we originally drew on inspiration for the old worn plush that we put in Slough Creek last summer, and for the fresh wolf plush that's in Tower Fall, and its partner, the bison plush. Other things we found there were the Junior Ranger hat, and this Poop Tracks game. Of course, that's trademarked, I'm sure, so we had to come up with our own version of that thing. Susan created all this, including the small print if you read it. Includes modeling clay for poop charades. Oh, and let's see what else. Yellowstone wine, which we reimagined into our bison red wine. Label art by Loach. The giant plastic ice cream cone is inspired by a similar countertop display object in the ice cream store there, the general store. And yeah, okay, maybe we did exaggerate the size a bit. But not all the collectibles are based on things you can find in the Tower Fall general store. The toy guitar, actually, dates back a lot longer. 20-some years ago, when our family went to the Yucatan one year, our son George, who for a number of years, more recently, did community management and handled all the abuse reports that came in from multiplayer games. Back when he was a wee one, he found this toy guitar in a shop in the Yucatan and fell in love with it for a couple weeks. But we still have it, and in fact I banged on it to make the sounds that the toy guitar makes when you pick up on it. But we wanted to make something that was more Yellowstone-themed, and so we adopted a Cowboys theme, because just north of the Tower Fall map is Roosevelt Lodge, named after Teddy Roosevelt, and that has a real Wild West kind of a flavor to it. So we found these charming, vintage, retro cowboy and cowgirl illustrations by Nancy Ann, the digital chick, on Etsy, and decided they were the perfect art for this toy guitar. What else? Okay, here's a fun fact. We try to recreate these areas of Yellowstone as accurately as we can. And when we started working on the Tower Fall map, I really wanted to have the waterfall at the top end of the map and Mount Washburn, highest point all around, at the bottom, the south end of the map. But those 2 points are pretty far apart, 11.5 kilometers, and that would just make the map bigger than we really could do for performance and memory reasons. So I cheated, and this is the height map that controls the elevation. Lighter areas are higher elevation, dark areas are low elevation. And I moved Mount Washburn and the mountain range here north, about 2 kilometers, and then kind of blended the difference where the slopes meet the plateau. So that reduces the north to south distance of the map to 9 kilometers. That's still kind of pushing it for the map sizes, but also just looking at the topography, you got the Yellowstone River Canyon on the east side and then another valley on the west side. It just worked out nicely to do a rectangular map, taller than it is wide, end up with a map about halfway between the size of the original Amethyst and Slough Creek maps and the other DLC maps. What else? Well, you know, there are lynx on the map, and a wolf biologist had told me a year or two ago that they'd heard about lynx doing pup raids, coming in and killing wolf pups before they get too big. And so originally we were planning to have that happen. And that's why some people have found a lynx head icon amongst the pup raider icons. But thinking about this more, lynx are not very big, they're pretty shy. So we asked that expert to look into it a little bit more. She did some literature review, talked to some people, and concluded that there weren't really any reliable reports of this. So sadly, we had to disable lynx raids on pups. Of course, there were many bugs during Tower Fall development, sometimes enough to make your head spin. The Wolf IK does still have some bugs, but you can't really blame a wolf for not knowing how to jump off a floating pond. The truck doesn't know to steer around boulders because there's not supposed to be boulders in the road. And sometimes the tourist bus just can't even find the road. Now, this is a real wildlife tour. And be sure to stay on the bus because we have more things in the works. We'll share more in the coming months.